Hello, today I am going to be working on updating one of my free Udemy courses. And I want y'all to join me and give me your feedback. If you've taken the course, ask your questions. Regardless, ask your questions about transitioning to XR UX design, because that's what I'm going to be working on today. And that will ask your questions, give your feedback. That will help me create better free courses for you on Udemy. And if you're watching later, it's not going to be too late. Later, you can go ahead and add your comments later in the YouTube, and I will watch those. I will check those out. So there are a few things that I want to go through today. And for those of you, again, those of you who have taken the free Udemy course, I want you to ask your questions and give your feedback. And I know that there are gaps in the courses that probably make you ask a lot more questions when you're going through the course. So I want you to go ahead and ask those questions here. Now's a great time to do that, and that'll help me know what to add. So there are limitations with free Udemy courses, and it's their rules. It's not my rules. Max of 2 hours for free courses, and they don't allow you to do Q&A back and forth with your students. So work around, I'm doing it here on stream. And I also am going to go through the current content on the transitioning to UX design, XR UX design course here. And we're going to look into some of these updates because I did see that, yes, the current state and the market predictions definitely need to be updated because this is a year old and things have changed a lot in the past year. So that's going to need to be updated. So we'll go ahead and start looking at that. And yeah, so current state, the journey hasn't changed. And it's important that you do check out that journey because it's going to help you to see how you can get started in the XR. I know that there are a lot of people out there who are having trouble getting jobs in XR, and there's a different strategy to do it. Until it becomes more commonplace, you're going to have to use different strategies to get XR jobs. It's not just always going to be an XR job posting, because it's going to be just like it was with the smartphones. It's going to be integrated into your UX job. So you would want to look at companies that are hiring UX designers that also are doing XR projects. And then, like with my journey, you're at a company or you get a job as UX designer in a company, and you talk to them, you network, and you stand up an XR team within that company. That's what I ended up doing, convinced them of the value of XR. And then they stood up a team within that company instead of posting new XR jobs, which is what a lot of people are looking for. But you're going to probably have to do a different strategy for XR because it is still emerging, and there's going to be a different method of doing that. So for the current state of the XR industry, let's see, a year ago when I talked about this, it's back in 2015. I'm looking at my transcript of the video. Back in 2015, the Hype Cycle report from Gartner, and we'll look at the one for this year as well, they had predicted that augmented and virtual realities would take 5 to 10 years to reach the plateau of productivity. Here we are 10 years later, 2025, and it is not as commonplace as people would think. It's very common, and there are a lot of companies that use it within their companies, but it's not highly visible except for the hype out in the consumer market. But it is being used in companies, but they keep it close to their chest. So 2017, they were on track. 2019, they did disappear from the Hype Cycle report. And And that year, their report said that they had removed them because they were already on the plateau of productivity, so they didn't have them in the hype cycle anymore. But as we're observing, at least it's much more obvious with current technology as it was in the past, is that technology can go through that hype cycle multiple times. So it seems to me, looking at the current state, it was on the plateau of productivity because people in companies, marketplace, enterprise, business were using it, especially manufacturing. And it was commonplace in manufacturing for HoloLens and VR for training and skills training and so forth. And that is still that is probably still the most used of XR right now, is training. And currently it's VR training, which we're working on a course for VR training. Hopefully you look forward to that, designing for VR training, because that is a big area that is being used. It may not be visible out in the world, but because the companies like to keep that stuff close to their chest. But there's active shooter training, police are using it, military is using it, enterprise manufacturing is using VR for training, and then augmented and mixed reality are also being used in manufacturing for sure. So it's there. They just like to keep that stuff close to their chest, and you have to know where to look to find that news. I know because I work in that industry and I create training and I'm a part of that. I see it, I witness it. So it is there, but it's just not consumer visible, because consumers are looking at video games and entertainment and productivity for the general consumer, which it's not there yet for sure. But as we can see with the newer glasses that are coming out that are better form factor, it's getting there. It's not there yet. And let me know if you have questions, because that's why we're here, so that you can ask your questions and I can answer your questions about transitioning to XR UX design. Is it worth it? What's that look like in reality? So please do ask your questions, so I can make this better for you. But let's see. So it's definitely used in medical, and if you look for it, you'll find news articles on it. But it's used in medical for training for difficult medical procedures, and a doctor can go in and check out and practice a difficult medical procedure that they haven't done in a long time before they go and actually do the surgery, to review and to make sure they're good to go for the actual surgery. And it has been effective in reducing the amount of mishaps and so forth in surgery, and learning new surgeries and so forth is becoming more and more common. And one of the biggest things that I see holding back XR from being adopted in the by the masses is, first of all, cost. But if you look at your iPhones, those are more expensive than a lot of the smart glasses that are coming out. So Anil says it saves a lot of cost and efficient in training and safe. But yes, it does. VR training and XR training there's a lot of benefits for it. It saves a ton of money, and yeah. So the cost is like, we'll spend money on a smartphone. So it's not so much the price as it is the value currently, I think. So once the value is there, people will be more willing. There are still people out there that refuse to wear glasses. They don't need them, and they don't want them on their face because there's something about having this thing on your face. It's not comfortable. They don't like it. So there's still going to be people out there that not everyone is going to have it, but it will be ubiquitous at some points. But before that can happen, the form factor has to come down to eyeglass level. And right now it's just not there. It's getting there, but it's not there yet. And once it gets to that form factor, it also has to be value. Is it enough value to replace a different device that I'm using, like my smartphone. There have been predictions, it's been predicted for a while, that mixed reality or AR glasses will eventually replace the smartphone. So you'll be wearing your phone instead of holding it. And I can still see it going there, but again, there are things that have to happen before it can really take hold. Form factor, value, and vision correction. Vision correction is very limited right now. Yes, you can get inserts and prescription lenses for your smart glasses that are like the Ray-Bans and Meta glasses that are coming out. Yes, you can, but they only work for certain prescriptions and only certain types of lenses. So they're not going to work for everyone. They're going to work for a large number of people, but I've made some videos about it. I can see, let me see if I shared them. I will share them in the show notes later if I haven't yet. Let me check. It does not look like I did share those. I will try to remember to look for those and put them in the show notes later for you. But if I don't, if I forget, just look for my videos on... There's one that I made about the Apple Vision Pro that questions whether or not the masses can use it, because I go into depth about eye tracking and lenses in that video, if you want to talk about that, because a large majority, the trend is that the majority of people are going to need glasses in the future. That's the trend. It's like, it's going there. And so we will need corrective lenses unless something changes, because we're just not looking at nature enough, and that affects our eyesight. So when we stare at screens all day. So it's going there. So then the majority of people are going to need those corrective lenses in the future. So we need to solve that problem. And people like me can't use them because the corrective lenses that are available don't meet my needs. So there's still going to be a large number of people that can't use them at this point. It's getting there, and they're working on it, and they're improving those inserts regularly. Each time they have new glasses out, I notice that this prescription ranges increase. So it's getting there, but it's not there yet. And Anil says, UX also has a lot of role in making it accessible and easy to use. Yes, current apps are clunky, and if we as designers make it easy for people to onboard, more people will adapt. Yes, there is UX is a big part of that, which is why I'm here, is to help teach y'all how to make these things more usable. And I plan soon to start focusing more on mixed reality and augmented reality as we have more access to those things. But again, because of my eyesight, I have limited ability to use those glasses myself, which makes it difficult for me to test them and then thus teach you. So we'll see. I may focus on the accessibility of it since I can't see, go from a limited low vision, no vision perspective for XR in the future, since I can't wear my glasses with them. So we'll see. We're going to try that out. Let me know if y'all are interested in that. But that's the current state. It's being held back because of the form factor. People don't want to wear, and you can't, realistically, you can't wear a heavy headset on your face for long periods of time. So we can't be productive all day in eyeglasses, but in the current headsets. But again, the form factor is getting there, but then there's the battery life as well. That's an issue for all day use. So wearing a battery pack with your eyeglasses. Yeah, that's not realistic right now. But manufacturing film, it's there. It's there. It's just not hugely visible in the business world right now because people like to keep things close to their chest. So, and that actually goes back to the whole concept of how you look for your jobs as someone who wants to get into XR. Realistically, for me, it's going to be mixed, just like it was with smartphones, right? I had to be on a UX team, and that UX team did smartphone stuff sometimes. They did web stuff sometimes, desktop stuff sometimes. It was a mix. It's not just a one focus on one thing. There are those jobs that do that. But for the majority of the UX people, I think it's still going to be a mix of all the different devices. So you need to be versatile in knowing how to design for each for now. It will get to the point where it'll be more common to have dedicated XR. But right now, I'm not seeing dedicated XR as much, but it is there. A lot of those jobs are not made public, though. And of course, we now have the issue of all of the bots and the scams going on that are making it that much harder for people to find jobs. And because the economy currently is that much harder because there are more people looking for jobs right now. It's hard. It's difficult. So what can we do? I am looking into what we can do. I don't have all those answers right now, but it's something that needs to be answered. How do we solve that problem? How do we get past all the scams? I'm learning more about that. It goes pretty dark. Has to do with people being forced into scamming, human trafficking. I just learned that recently, that there's actual human trafficking being forced into being scammers, which is horrible. So looking at it from that perspective, hopefully we can figure that out, solve that problem. But that's not me. I'm not going to be able to solve that problem. But how do we get past that? So I'm talking to people like my agent, Aquint. All of the jobs that I've ever gotten have not been through cold applications. They have been through my agent or knowing people. So I use Aquint. I'm not getting paid for this because I'm too lazy to fill out the paperwork to get paid for this. But use an agent. It doesn't have to be Aquint. It could be find a trustworthy agency that will help you find jobs. Aquint's a good one. They have a large talent pool the different roles that they support. And I've been using them since 2010. And if you are having trouble finding jobs, also try agents. And if you are trying the agents and you're still having trouble, let me know what you're having trouble with. I'm interested in knowing that as well. Because AI is having a big influence on all of this about the job scams, as well as making your way past the AI bots that are filtering out all of the resumes to actually get to a human to review it, because they're starting to use AI to filter out that stuff now, which is making it more difficult. So then you have to learn how to work with the AI to get it to recognize you. And so I'm still learning. I'm still looking into it. But I do hope to learn more so that I can show y'all more about that in the future as well. So again, let me know your questions, comments about the course. If you've taken it or if you haven't, what are your questions about getting into XR design? So let's talk about, the current industry, that's where it is. Let's look at market predictions. And so again, looking at Gartner, back in 2017, they did say that it is critical to identify and look into these technologies such as XR, virtual reality, augmented reality, medical industry, merchandising, enterprise. Those industries are already using it, and it's only increasing within those spaces. And when I made this video, Apple had just put out it was on pre-release. They hadn't put it out yet, the Vision Pro. So they are working on, a lot of people think the Vision Pro was a failure, but the Vision Pro was I think it was an experiment dev kit. So it's a mixed bag. Dan Marquesi has a video about it if you want to check it out. So does Melissa Schmidt if you want to check her out. Recommend both of them. But let's see, they had Digital twins, big. It's getting bigger. So if you are into 3D modeling, digital twins a big thing. And I know that you can use LiDAR cameras and so forth to scan and make 3D models, but those 3D models still have to be cleaned up to be performant. And that needs a human eye, at least currently. So if you want to look into that, go ahead and look into that. I think a human eye needs to stay on all of this stuff anyway. And I'm just looking at my transcript here. That this definitely needs to be updated. So a year ago, I said the current XR market value was at 42.55 billion, and the prediction was that it would be over 333 billion by 2025. So the question is, did it do that? So I Googled that and said, what's the current market value? And according to AI, it is between 87.3 billion and 157.44 billion. So like Mordor Intelligence says that it's 157 billion currently. That is not 333 billion. So we didn't quite make it there. The economy, you know, things happen. The economy is terrible. People are having a hard time finding jobs. XR is a luxury right now. So it's not there yet. But it is still climbing. It has increased. It was around 37.9 billion in 2022. And I think I made this video in 2024. It was 42.55. So if it is actually at 157.44, it has increased quite a bit. And even if it's only an 87.3, some of these people had different numbers. It's still a significant increase from previous years. So it's still growing, still climbing. So then let's look at the latest Gartner report. Because the latest Gartner report tells us what we should be looking at in 2025. So these are the reports that I've been looking at all these years to see what are the trends, how's it going. And currently, top 2025 top trends that we need to keep an eye on, and this was published in October 2024. Agentic AI is the first one listed here. So agentic AI is assistive AI, basically. It's AI that is helping you by doing the smaller tasks that allow you to focus more on the more difficult stuff. So if you want to learn more about agentic AI, I recommend Christopher Nossel. He has a book called, what's it called? Designing Agentic Technology, and he wrote this years ago. It was a before its time book because he's into future tech as well. He is a forward-thinking personality within the UX design world. And if you want to follow, like, thinking about the future, he's a good one to follow. But he wrote this book called Designing Agentic Technology, AI that works for people. And I can't remember what year he wrote it, but it was a long time ago. And I've got the link to his book in the show notes if you want to check that out later. Highly recommend that book. It's very good. And it's still relevant. He may be working on an update, I'm not sure. But it's still relevant, even the old book, because he's very forward thinking. So if you want to learn more about that, check that out, because I see agentive or agentic AI merging with XR, and we're going to be using it for the creation of XR. We're going to be using it as assisting us in our daily tasks for XR. So it's going to merge. Those two are going to merge as they are with all the other platforms. And spatial computing, you can see, is still on the list of things to keep an eye on. Spatial computing is XR. It's 3D spatial computing. is XR. It's just a different term. This is the term that Apple made popular, but it's actually been around for a while, but Apple made it really popular with the Vision Pro. And so these two things are what we need to start looking into if we're interested in XR and going forward with spatial computing, because this is how smart glasses and all those things are going to be in the future, is it's going to be spatial. So let me know your questions about that, and then that's going to be a really interesting neurological enhancement. That's going to be interesting. Hybrid computing. So let's look more into these. Agentic AI is AI systems autonomously plan and take actions to meet user-defined goals. So these are things that are going to help. Goal-driven capabilities of this technology will deliver more adaptable software systems capable of completing a wide variety of tasks. It has the potential to really increase productivity across the organization. And then, of course, there is AI governance, which really needs to happen. Disinformation really needs to happen, especially these two to go together quite a bit. Disinformation and so, yeah, spatial computing. It's enhancing the physical world or extending the physical world with augmented, virtual, mixed reality. And by 2023, here's a new prediction. It's quite a big prediction. By 2033, Gartner predicts that spatial computing will grow to $1.7 trillion, up from $110 billion in 2023. So that's a big difference. That's a big jump from what we're seeing now with 157.44. But with the inclusion of AI to help solve the problems and the ability to create the smaller form factor with the better lens options, it is going to increase. It is going to get better. It is going to become ubiquitous at some point. It's not ubiquitous like they did predict that it would be ubiquitous by now. It's not. XR itself is, because augmented reality is used all the time on our smartphones, but like the wearable is not ubiquitous. They did predict that it would replace smartphones by now, but it has not. We're a little behind on that. And design skills. These, if you check out my link tree, which is in the show notes, you will get a link to a skill assessment, a skill self-assessment that you can take. It's also here in the resources in the course to see where you are, what skills are needed for XR UX design, and where you are within that, and it'll evaluate what you need to and set your goals depending on your future goals, what you want to work towards. These are the things you need to learn, depending on, there's a tons of different areas that you could go into. So that'll help you decide what to go into. And like the tools have changed since I talked about this. Design tools and software. And again, if you have questions, if you're watching this later on demand, go ahead and ask your questions and I will answer them, and that'll help me make this course better for everyone. There are new design tools. There's one that somebody just told me about. I forgot the name of it, that I need to check out. Shapes XR is still a really good one. Unreal is getting there, but Unity is the top tool for XR right now. Except Apple, you're going to have to use their tools, which are specific to them. And so Hardware hasn't really changed. You just need to check what the local minimum requirements are for hardware. You need a PC. If you're going to do anything non-Apple, you're going to need a PC. And then if you want to do Apple headsets, you have to have a Mac. You cannot send to build and test on a PC because they require Xcode. They require their tools, which you can only use on the Mac with an M2. Currently, it's an M2 chip, which you can only get on the Mac. So that is their requirements. I did add to the resources a link to their requirements. So you have those now. Now that it's out, now that it's been on the market for a while, that information is finally available. It was not available at the time that I made the course. And the process, I'm going to look through this again. But this is basically still the same. It's a combination of game design and traditional UX design, depending on the goal of your experience. Because I like to bucket them into two different buckets: productivity tools, and immersive experiences, because they're two different things. So you test for those things differently. And some of the methods and tools that you would use are going to vary depending on what you're doing. So again, if you're watching this later on demand, or if you're watching now, give me your questions. What are your aha moments, if you had any? Give me your feedback on the course and add your comments. I will check those. And I do have 4 Udemy courses that are available that I'm working on. I'm working on another one. I'm working on updating the ones that are already there. And I'm going to continue to ask you, keep asking your questions and give your feedback. And all of this is in my spare time, so the updates are coming as I can get them out. So I appreciate your patience. And also keep an eye out for future course that's coming out on VR training design, because again, that is the future that is happening right now and is only growing. There's going to be a need for that, and that is a good area. If you wanted to get into XR design, that's a good area to start looking at. And again, a lot of the jobs are not public. A lot of the jobs are private, and they'll only go through an agent. So it's a good idea to get a few different agencies that are trustworthy, and that'll also get rid of the scam jobs, because the agents will vet those jobs and make sure they're real. And that'll reduce your heartache of ending up getting scammed or potentially scammed or wasting your time on fake jobs. Just find a reputable agent that's been out there for a while and use them. And you can use multiple agents. It's fine. Find multiple agencies so that you get a good swath of potential opportunities, because a lot of these companies only go through agencies. So check that out. And Aquant's a good one. I don't have a link. Do I have a link? I don't think I have a link. I'll try to remember to add a link to the show notes later for y'all for that. And thanks. I'll see y'all again in the future. That's all I have. And see y'all next time.